I've always thought of the Space Wolves as sort of being more of the poor man's version of the World Eaters. So now that we got that super cold take, super agreeable, everyone's going to agree with that take on YouTube. Let's get into the nitty gritty, right? Talking about Space Wolves, but more specifically, I'm talking about Leman Russ today, and I want to talk about what his return might or should look like, really. And I really only have two possible theories, and that seems to be the general consensus that everyone who's into the lore is sort of talking about. So let's get into it. What's up, everybody? Angron's Calmest Son here, aka CK40K here, and Leman Russ has never been one of my, go-to Primarchs. You could obviously, if we're gonna make an educated, inferred guess as to who my favorite is, maybe it's Angron. I don't know. Angron might be up there if on the top three Primarchs of all time. It might be Angron, and an MVP. Shout out to Angron, and maybe Angron. You get what I'm saying? Leman Russ has not really been a priority for me. I haven't really invested a whole lot of time into the Space Wolves unless they showed up in other stories that I've been reading, like Battle for the Abyss, the Prophet of the Wog. Like, I really only capture and sort of consume Space Wolf like stuff when they're shown in other stories or the Armin Omnibus. Really, I'm not, again, it's pretty easy to tell that I'm just not super invested in them. But that doesn't mean GW isn't, right? And that doesn't mean that, Leman Russ won't return at some point. And so the general consensus has been two possible theories, right? So one is that Leman Russ sort of goes on this grand Nordic saga quest to find the Tree of Life, to find maybe Isha, and to sort of help free the Emperor from the Golden Throne. And that seems to be one of the most popular one, so to speak, where he becomes this wizened Odin figure, loses his eye, comes back all grizzled but knowledgeable, and utilizes more warp abilities. This seems to me to be the most agreeable and most likely outcome, perhaps. But then there's another little bit lesser supported. Most people aren't really going for it, but they also kind of agree could equally happen. And that is he comes back in a much more feral like way, which I honestly would think would be the most appropriate way to go about it. And I'll tell you why in just a second. But basically, this theory that people think is going to occur when Leman Russ returns is, Wolf, big bad Wolf pulls up to the crib and he's like, guys, I'm not having a good time. The setting is in utter chaos, and quite frankly, I'm gonna be a Debbie Downer, and I'm gonna go feral, and I'm gonna go beat the shit out of some people. And that's typically what I think is going to occur. And the reason I think this is because there's a quote that I heard a long time ago. I don't know if this was either from lore video, whether this is from an excerpt. Someone who's much more intelligent than me, if they know, can point it out in the comments. But it was essentially comparing the two, the lion and and Leman Russ. So it's essentially like Leman Russ is a savage, or is a man pretending to be a savage, and the lion is a savage pretending to be a man. So I really think it would be interesting to see the two parallels show up again in modern 40K, but in this reversed way, where the lion that we see him now is much more, you know, rational. He's not so focused on his secrets and his way is the only way. He's slowly come about to maturing and saying, all right, the setting is in utter shambles. Gilliman is literally the only brother I have right now. Everything is screwed up. I need to be an adult and I need to assume some responsibility and fix the shit that Horace left behind and that and that my dad left behind. So they're doing that, and Leman comes back and essentially assumes the what would be, I guess, maybe the Crusader role, where he comes back, maybe interacts with the Lion, maybe doesn't, but he just comes back in complete utter savage. He's basically crusading, basically doing all this sort of stuff that really goes with his character, but not in the way that we're used to, right? We've seen bits and pieces where Lehman's not a stupid guy. And really, the best thing I can think of that I'm more familiar with is when he meets the Emperor, when he does these challenges that he knows for a fact he's going to win. And even when you say, but Connor, when he challenges him to combat, how can you say you know he's going to win? Because the Emperor just absolutely dog walks him in the first second. Right. Maybe you could guess, or not even guess. You can really just, everything's a theory right now, but you could theorize that Leman did this just to gauge how strong the Emperor is and gauge his, who this man is who could possibly be related to him. But, you know, crackpot theories aside, yeah, I personally am of the opinion that Leman's Russ should probably come back in a way that is more feral, that is more, on topic with maybe like a Corvus Corax introduction again to the lore, where he's essentially embraced his innate warp abilities to a much higher degree than the psychic shroud that was utilized on the Battle of Prospero, and something that's more, feral and quite frankly badass. I'm not saying he's not badass, but I'm saying whichever author's handed this, whoever and whatever direction GW is going to take with it, missed opportunity on their part, in my opinion, if they don't go with the savage route. Am I saying that the wizened old warrior Odin-esque figure is wrong? No, I'm not saying that, but I am biased. I'm 100% biased in thinking that the savage comeback would be much more entertaining and probably would open a little bit more possibilities than the wizened Odin figure. And also, I have one problem with the first theory I mentioned of Leman Russ going to save Isha. I don't really think the Imperium should be the ones to do that. I think that highly discredits the Eldar, and it wouldn't really make a whole lot of sense why this, the xenophobic culture, right, is gonna go. It's like an exterminator going in and saving like a queen bee. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense unless you spin it in a really batshit crazy way. But to each their own. I personally would not go in that direction. The Imperium should not ever being the one saving Isha unless it's not on purpose, unless they get manipulated by farcier events and end up doing it. So, But other than that, guys, I am curious as to what you guys think. Which way should he return? Do you think the first one, the wizened figure, or second one, the savage, or do you have a completely new third theory that you think GW is going to spring on us and they're going to go a completely different route when reintroducing Leman Russ? Let me know in the comments down below. And of course, if you watched the whole video, thank you so much. It's always super appreciated. And if you want to subscribe, get me to 500 subscribers, this bad boy and this bad boy will be painted, and I will try to assemble the rest of them. But anyways, guys, thank you so much, and I am out of here.